And where's it gone? It's but what happens is the land registry will tell you that your property's been sold at the end of the day. What will happen is if you rent out your property and the tenant uploads it or puts a company or puts it on Rightmove, you get an alert straight away. Or you do a solicitor's search, or you instruct a sales agent, or it's uplisted, or it's quite a good bit of tech. And I think it brings me on to the point where there is some really good technology out there as landlords, whether you're using a managing agent or you're part and parcel, or they're just using them for rent collection. You should look at embracing technology. You know, how many of you members of the NRLA? Put your hands up here. A lot of you. Yeah, great value for money. You know, I manage our relationship with our group. We supply their landlord insurance for £85 a year. It's great value. You still need to know what's going on in the market, even if you're using a letting agent. It's important because of the changes. Educate yourself, i.e. that's why you guys are here. You'll learn stuff. You'll learn some gold nuggets from all the speakers of what's happening in the market. And then, of course, how do you thrive? You get yourself a power team, okay? You've got your tradesmen, you've got your people you've been working for years, your trusted people, okay? Your educational providers, obviously your letting and managing agents, but have your power team that can assist you. I'm sure you've got them, but always look, you can't beat another landlord's recommendation about using someone. It's worth their weight in gold, as I said. And of course, how many of you have got property alerts? I just saw that you've got a property alert company as well. Getting some property alerts to obviously let you know of various different properties that could add to your portfolio, which is important. You know, I think what I am seeing, I spoke to a receiver last week, Ken, I spoke to him last week, and there is more landlords now struggling with mortgages, obviously. There's more receivers being instructed, and I know that there has been, if you look at the numbers for repossessions, in the last 6 months, they've increased quite dramatically with regard to mortgage arrears as well. And of course, you know, we had the speaker before talking about rates. The rates are always changing all the time. Problem. And I have said on many platforms, there are far more bad tenants than bad landlords. Let's be very clear about that. Yeah, the landlords that appear on my TV program are criminal landlords. You know, where they will put 25 people in a house. You know, I remember when I set up Landlord Action, I met my old business partner. He had, it was 27 illegal immigrants living in a 3-bed flat. And I evicted them all. I got them all out, and that's how we started Landlord Action. That was in '99, actually. But yeah, the key is obviously to find and keep those good tenants. So of course, a happy tenant hopefully could be a happy landlord. You know, having good communication, it's really, really important. You've got to realise that what is going to happen on the horizon with regard to the Renters Reform Bill is, as landlords, you're going to have to be part of a redress scheme. Do you know about that? Yeah? So every letting agent and a sales agent have to be part of a redress scheme. So I represent one of the redress schemes called the Property Redress Scheme. We've got 18,000 members. And of course, there's the Property Ombudsman. Now what's going to happen is, under the Renters Reform Bill, all landlords are going to have to be part of a redress scheme. And what does that mean? The government are turning around and saying, we brought the Renters Reform Bill in because now is the time to level everything up, okay? Tenants are paying far too much money to the direct landlord market, and we think they should be getting a better service from their landlords, okay? And what does that mean? It means being professional, carrying out the repairs at the right time, understanding the legislation and being compliant, making sure that we're doing the right inventories. The list goes on and on and on, you know, and that's important, yeah? But one of the biggest complaints about complainants against agents is a lack of communication. Of course, how will the Renters Reform Bill and the changes affect your business, okay? So a recent survey said that 62% of landlords are worried about the banning of Section 21. Put your hand up if you're worried about Section 21 going and being banned. Put your hands up, okay? If the components are right, i.e. The grounds are right, so they're going to be looking at bringing 33 grounds in, of which 22 are going to be mandatory. If they can recruit more judges, you know, they recruit more bailiffs. We've got a massive shortage of bailiffs. If you can use high court sheriffs to carry out evictions, if you can use mediation as part of the court process, okay? Pardon?
There's a lot of Fs.
I know. That's why I come back to my conversation I had with my MP in 2019. I said, you know, and we're doing 35 hearings a month at Landlord Action, so I see it from my staff all the time. You know, what's happening is, you know, has any of you ever tried to call a court? You've got more chance of speaking to the Prime Minister, right? I've actually got one of my girls that does admin, half her job is to call the courts up to get through, and it's a nightmare. It really is a nightmare. Then you have to digitalise the court. You know, tenants, because there's a homeless prevention bill that they're throwing at. You know, the problem you've got is tenants have the right to defend a case. They have a right to get legal advice, yeah? Some of the time, they would just try it on lastminute.com, speak to a duty solicitor, and say there's disrepairs issues when they've had a really good, credible agent that's been managing it to try and get off not getting a possession order made against them for a month's of rent. Of course, we know under Ground 8, it's a mandatory ground. So we need all those provisions in there. That's why you still need this bill to go through. And the reality is, it's going to go right to the wire, because of course it's going through the third reading, it's going through committee, then it's got to go to House of Lords, then it's got to go into World Statute, it's got to become a law. That's all got to happen before a general election. Well, when's the general election going to be? They're talking about it could happen in June. If it's going to happen in June, this renters reform bill I can't see is going to go through. It's not going to have much time. What does that mean? It means everything gets wiped off the table, and then obviously if a Labour government comes in, then it starts from scratch. Some of them are cross-party, but the reality is that I think some of the measures could be a lot more stringent on landlords, which is a worry. And then, of course, everyone says, well, a Labour government, are they going to bring rent caps in? Well, Keir Starmer, who's a bit flippy-floppy, isn't he, already? He's turned around and said, no, we're not going to bring rent caps in. Look, with regard to what's happening in England, in Wales and in Scotland, far worse, if I say. Look at the Scottish market. Landlords are leaving in their droves. And rents, they talked about rent caps, rents have gone up. It's a massive issue. So I do think, though, that, and you know, if you look at Rent Smart Wales, where landlords have to be educated, I actually think that's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing. But don't forget, it's a profession. And landlords have to change the way they act and the way they feel and the way they talk to their tenants. It has to come from within. You can't just rely on the press because, you know, we're trying to move an oil tanker when it comes to change the perception of what a landlord is. You know, a landlord with a estate agent, let me say this, a landlord and a estate agent are in the bottom 7 occupations out there, believe it or not. So estate agents and landlords are down there with traffic wardens, bailiffs, and bankers. I said bankers, by the way, right? But that's the reality. So there's a lot of work that you have to do. If you go to a place like in America or Canada or whatever, there is the regulation of property agents. So we've talked about ROPA, regulation of property agents. That's at committee stage. That got kicked in the long grass. Now they're saying that all agents should be regulated. Quite rightly they should. Yeah? And that raises the game and it gets rid of all the cowboys in the industry. If you're using a letting agent or using a sale agent and they're qualified and they've taken their exams and they're up to a level 4 and above, for you as a consumer, landlord and a tenant, that would give you a peace of mind, wouldn't it? And I think that's where we're going with regard to the regulation of property agents. So landlords have a duty to be professional, right? We represent the landlording business. What's the image of the landlord? We talked about that. And I think everyone has, they should be, a landlord should be thinking, yes, I'm a landlord, I deal or act in a certain way. if I'm meeting a new tenant, what's the perception of what I want to give as a landlord? I want to be professional, I want to be firm, I want to be arm's length. You know, are you spending time having the communications when you've got a young couple renting for the first time and they don't understand appliances or they don't know where to put the rubbish bins? You know, believe it or not, a lot of landlords, I know letting agents do, but a lot of landlords don't even sit down when they're signing a tenancy agreement if they're doing it themselves. They don't explain the tenancy agreement and what it means and how to rent guide is. You've got to do all of that, you know, because most tenants don't read tenancy agreements. Okay, be educated. Look at the accreditations that you can do. Is there anything with the council? You know, look at networking. Look at speaking to other landlords. You know, it's always good to speak to other landlords. You know, what are they doing? How can you share information? Okay. Care about your properties and your tenants, your investment, your customer. And of course, if there is fear of eviction, there's, you know, tenants, I think 45% of tenants out there don't have any savings whatsoever. So they know that they're going to be renting for a long time. And for a lot of tenants, that feels very demoralising. Yeah. But then, of course, you have the extreme where you have people thinking, oh, greedy landlords, they're making X amount or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's an asset. You've had to pay for that property. Yeah, that running concern. But there's too many tenants and tenant groups that just aren't seeing that. And of course, with some of the press and some of the way that they've been campaigning doesn't help tenants. Student landlords, but also for other landlords, is a tenant would have to give 2 months' notice, and they can only serve the notice after 4 months. So effectively, that tenant's going to be there for at least 6 months, as if you were going to have a 6-month or 12-month AST. The worry about beforehand, and that's why there's been loads of toing and froing and loads of campaigning with the NRLA and loads of other people like myself and other people, is that initially a tenant will go into a property and after a month they give you notice. And we know that there's a lot of upfront cost and time on board, especially student landlords, because of course students' purpose-built blocks have an exemption.
Why is there such a government drive against landlords? Why do they not see landlords as part of the solution? The tenants seem to be part of the problem. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, so it's all very political. You've got the haves and have-nots. You've got 11 million renters. You've got a general election coming up. The renters reform is cross-party. There's doing the amendments. But it's just, you know, the reality is most landlords, albeit siloed, are decent people, but they're all independents. They all work a certain way, a different way. Yeah, they all give different levels of service. And the whole point, like I said, of the Renters Reform Bill is to raise the standards. When you get into the detail, when you go into working groups like myself or whatever, we unpick it and say, that doesn't work. Or you get a letter and say, that's not going to work, that's not a feasibility. If you bring that in as a law, you're just going to get a mass exodus, even more landlords leaving. So what does that mean? It means good tenants are being asked to leave their property. That's the unintended consequence. There's a whole lot of stuff like that. And of course, a lot of people are disappointed because if you thought that there was a pro-landlord government, you would have thought it would have been the Conservatives. But that day has changed and gone. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.